So today I want to talk about the Wakanda Forever teaser trailer that dropped at Comic-Con over the last weekend, and why it was such an incredibly high bar for trailers and probably exactly the reset that the MCU needs right now. But before we get into that, remember to like and subscribe. Also a special shout out to the Patreon supporters who help me financially, and if you would like to join them and get 24-hour early access to the videos, there's a link below. So what is it that makes this trailer stand out? Well, as a person on YouTube, one of whose first videos was about generic superhero trailers, I'm very happy to say that this one doesn't do any of the things I highlight in that past video. If you want to go see me 4 to 5 years ago, there's a link somewhere. 6 years ago, I'm old! With that deep realization, let's get into the trailer. Pretty much, it really doesn't tell you much about the plot, which I really like. There is no, overarching dialogue of, here's the big bad guy, he's been training for years, and he needs the Jubajub crystal to bind together the powers of... there's none of that. It is a teaser trailer that is all about vibe and tone. It does show you, actually, if you go through it, quite a lot of the movie. You see lots of different locations, different characters, different scenes, several different action set pieces, but it doesn't really give you the context for them, and instead it gives you the vibe of this incredible cover of a Bob Marley song, and the broader context that we as an audience know of in that Chadwick Boseman passed away, and that is something that the movie immediately sets out in the somber tone of this trailer, that it is going to tackle that gap left behind by Chadwick Boseman's passing, and in the universe of Marvel, T'Challa and Black Panther passing away, is going to be driving this entire film forward. It's really funny because in a lot of ways it's a similar setup to what Avatar 2: The Way of Water was going for in their teaser trailer. But the problem with their teaser trailer is A, the music never really built up in, I think, as good of a way as this trailer does, but B, and most importantly, we don't really care about any of the Avatar characters. I'm sorry to the two of you who, love that franchise and are like, oh, Jake Sully, I want to be him. Cool. Good for you. But Black Panther as a film really gave us an entire cast of characters that were really likable and in really unique, different ways. You had Shuri, you had T'Challa, Nakia, Shuri and T'Challa's mom, whose character name I can't remember, but all these characters felt like they had depth. You had M'Baku as well, and they were so well projected on screen by the actors and the writing that you feel their presence here in this trailer. Even T'Challa not being in this, you feel his presence. And that focus on characters is, as probably anyone who's been following this channel for a while knows, for me it's the key thing about telling any story, even if that story is a short teaser trailer. You need to have that focus on character. And I think that focus on a more somber and reflective tone also helps differentiate this from other recent Marvel movies. I think that even though the recent Doctor Strange and Thor movies are very different, actually, they cop a lot of the same criticism around Marvel's Marvel-y tone, and even though I don't think it's always fair, this is a pretty big departure from that. But not only that, it works in a second way because, broadly speaking, the first Black Panther movie is the only MCU movie that has really tackled any real-world political issues in a pretty straight-up way. We've now actually had 2 MCU Disney Plus series that have done the same with Ms. Marvel and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but in terms of the films, even though a lot of them tackle deep human themes, they don't necessarily tackle real-world political issues. And so the tone that this trailer gives off is that this movie is going to be aiming for that kind of deeper theme again. And with the very little we know about the plot, with effectively what looks like 2 native civilizations that managed to keep out European colonialization probably being manipulated into fighting each other in this costly war. That kind of political manipulation in search of whatever resources are available, whether that's vibranium or whatever is available in Namor's home city of Atlantis. Someone wants to gain access to those resources, and so they pit these two sides against each other so that they can then come in and take the resources. Very colonialist. And so that pain and loss and that feeling of being in a constant war of attrition is something that the trailer gets across incredibly well, and I think especially because its only line of dialogue is from T'Challa's mother, who, howls in pain about how she is losing her family. She is the queen of the most powerful nation in the world, and yet this has not stopped her from experiencing all of this loss and losing everything. And that is just so powerful in a way Marvel hasn't shown in recent entries. And I think it's also powerful in a way that stands out in trailers in general, not just for Marvel or superhero movies. You've got this slow build-up with the background music and the images that kind of grow and grow in intensity, and then you've got this emotional call at the end that really links everything together and tells you that this movie is going to be about mourning and loss. They don't throw in a cheesy joke stinger at the end. They don't have some person explaining the entire plot to you. You just pick it up as you go, and it takes you on a journey. And if the movie is anything like that, we are in for a fucking mind-blowing ride. I am very excited. In terms of successful, good trailers that I think this reminds me of, the last one that comes to mind is the first teaser trailer for Man of Steel, where there is a bit more dialogue, but it really is about the imagery of Clark Kent exploring himself through that movie, going to different places, with all of the Superman imagery and the voiceovers of his two dads. You've got Clark Kent and you've got Jor-El, and their sort of differing opinions. And it's incredible, and it tells you everything the movie's going to be about. It's about this wandering Clark Kent trying to figure out who he is, and this internal conflict between his two dads. And it's got this powerful music ripped right out of The Lord of the Rings from when Gandalf dies in the Mines of Moria. And it just built up this entire philosophical edge that, whether or not you think the movie actually delivered on, was an amazing trailer. And so hopefully Black Panther Wakanda Forever more universally delivers on that promise this teaser trailer is making. But I am pretty hopeful. You are talking about an outstanding cast, one of the best directors in the game right now. And as well, this movie was delayed several times by COVID pauses. And I think in the relentless churning cycle that is making Marvel movies, that was actually probably a really good thing. It will have given Ryan Coogler more time to examine his own script, to see what it was working, what wasn't, and make sure things really aligned with his vision. And that's not just something I'm pulling out of my ass. Recently, for Stranger Things 4, the Duffer Brothers have said their COVID pause really helped them tighten their scripts, which sounds ridiculous because their episodes were so long and it was a longer season than usual, but it really helped them kind of realize the story they wanted to tell for their fourth season and really build that out and flesh it out in a pointed and direct way. And I will say that even though Stranger Things 4 was the longest season and had super long episodes, they never really felt long. And that is probably partly in result of that extra time writing, where you can really punch up a script if you just have a few extra days or weeks to think about it and work on it. And because these Marvel movies have such tight production schedules, it was actually probably a really good thing for this movie to be interrupted, and I think hopefully will help in delivering the vision the director really wanted. So I'm really excited, and I think a lot of the people who were just shitting on Thor and Doctor Strange are also getting swept up in this. So that's hopefully a good thing for this film and the Marvel universe in general. I think it needs a hit, not just like a standard blockbuster hit, like something that is incredible. And if this delivers that, then we're good. And they need to learn that lesson. They need to know that, hey, maybe if we give our directors a bit more time and we let them have a bit more of their own vision and their own style, and we work on the CG for a bit longer instead of burning out our animators and then having something look like a cartoon, maybe that is more of a key to success. But that's it. That's all I have to say. It was an outstanding trailer. I can't wait for the movie. Of course, there'll be an end credits scene where I talk about something else. What will it be? Who knows? Check it out. I guess you'll never find out unless you wait until after the credits. Who knows? Blah. Hey! Keeping in with the trailer talk, it's more trailer talk. This is going to be very brief, very succinct. But hey, how's about that Dungeons and Dragons trailer? That was pretty good. Like, that was much better than I expected. I'll be honest, when I first heard of the Dungeons and Dragons movie, it was originally gonna have Joe Manganiello in it, and it was like a big passion project for him. So when I heard they were going ahead with a different movie that didn't involve him, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be bad. And you know what? It still might be, but that first trailer really got me on board, and I'm also hyped for this. I think this and Wakanda Forever are like the two big blockbuster type titles that I am most excited to see now in the next 6 months or so. Or I guess it just falls within 6 months. I don't know, in the next 8 months or so. Whatever. I think there are so many different fantasy stories that exist out there, and we have only seen a very small percentage of what a fantasy story can be as a film. You've gotten, the epic Lord of the Rings style fantasy, which is amazing, but incredibly hard to pull off well, as we've seen with many that tried afterwards. And then you've got the more realistic, dark, gritty Game of Thrones style, which, again, is incredibly hard to pull off if you're not doing it right, including Game of Thrones. But there are so many different story types that exist in fantasy, and one of the big ones that hasn't really been done is that Guardians of the Galaxy style story about a found family of nobodies who have to save the world through their mishaps. And that is an incredibly common, fantasy book trope that just hasn't been done really well on cinema, and I want to see more of it, or it at all, really. And then if that works, you can get into more and other different kind of subgenres within fantasy. It'd be really great to see a King Killer Chronicle in a movie or TV series. Something that is really just an in-depth character study about one dude, but he's an interesting dude in a fantasy universe who does a lot of interesting stuff. That's all that book series is, and it's really great. So give me that in a movie or TV show. I think in the same way, we're now seeing lots of different genres sort of being thrown at and meshed with the Marvel Universe. That is something that's been going on in fantasy stories for almost 100 years now. And it would be really great to get more of that. Give me heist-style fantasy stories. Give me, political thrillers in a fantasy story where instead of nuclear bombs that Tom Cruise has to defuse, it's a dragon he has to kill. Whatever. Make it happen. Anyway, I'm very excited for this. I hope it's really good and that it opens the door to a whole bunch more fantasy movies, especially now that CG seems pretty widespread. You can do anything. You can do anything on cinema. So just make it happen.